Hi, I'm Kenny Klaus, and this is State 48 Homeowner.
Welcome back to the State 48 Homeowner Podcast, where we talk about everything related to being a homeowner in the great state of Arizona. And a couple months ago, we had as a guest on our podcast, Mesa City Council person Scott Summers, as we talked about water conservation and management. If you didn't listen to that, it was episode 92 back on May 8th. And I want to dive in a little bit deeper into that conversation because water conservation is a big thing. We're in a regional drought. Depending on, things change on where the water is coming from. Obviously, we had a great winter this year and a ton of water in the White Mountains and all the areas that supply us from the east. But as far as, looking at the Colorado River, it's just not coming back yet. It's pretty dire, and we do get a lot of water from out there. So let's dive in. Let's talk a little bit more about water conservation. And today I want to talk about how to spot invisible water leaks. And this is something that happens in a lot of our houses, underneath our houses, in our backyards is irrigation. The EPA, United States Environmental Protection Agency, they estimate that 1 trillion gallons of water are wasted every year nationwide due to leaks. It's just stuff that is leaking. And generally when things are leaking, that's not the only problem. Water is going in, there's causing erosion. We're wasting water too. So let's talk about how we can spot these leaks before they cause too much damage. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to start to get friendly with our monthly water bill. We want to pay attention to that. We want to be aware of what last week's water bill was, what last year's water bill was, because we'll use different amounts of water based on the month. Just because, as we maybe roll from May into June that our water bill goes up, that may actually not be that bad of a thing. It just may be that you're using more water in the pool, or the kids are going out and doing slip and slide and that kind of stuff. When I grew up out in California, before we had a pool, we'd run through the sprinklers. And so there was some water used there. So we want to pay attention, and that's the struggle with auto pay, with water bills. I live in the town of Gilbert, and so I make sure that my Gilbert utilities bill, I pay manually. I also do that with my SRP. I want to make sure that I am aware if there is a rise or fall and to know, is there a reason behind that? If so, I want to be paying attention to that. So we want to use patterns to know what is normal and what is abnormal in the home. If the bill's higher, we want to think back on the previous month. Hey, did we drain and refill the hot tub? Did we have a leak and we were adding water? And did the kids use the slip and slide? Did we wash the cars on that one Saturday versus taking them to the car wash? Is there a reason for there being more water being used? If not, you might have an invisible water leak. And we also want to look and compare it to the previous month. And we also want to look at last year. How much water did we use last year at this same time? And that's going to give us a baseline. And if we can take maybe this year, the year before, and the year before that, and maybe combine all 3 years and see what that baseline is for those specific months and just run on the averages there. And if things go higher, we want to start to pay attention to that.
Hey everyone, this is Kenny Klaus with Klaus Team Real Estate Solutions. We know there's a lot of confusion in today's market, whether it's billboards, TV, radio, mail, everyone's trying to get your attention. They offer one lane, where at the Klaus Team, we have over 20 different programs. We can help you navigate through to find out what's best for you. And remember, we work for you, they work for themselves. We're here to represent you and make sure you have the best experience possible.
Visit us at klausteam.com/call us first. Another thing that we can do, and this doesn't take too much time at all, is we want to shut off all the water, make sure all the sinks are off, nobody go to the toilet. Let's make sure that we're not watering the lawn for just this little period of time, and go out to our water meter. And we want to look at it. If we have shut off everything in the house, there should not be any water flowing, right? The water meter at that point should not be moving. And so we want to learn how to read the water meter. There's YouTube videos for that if you'd like to. But we want to be able to tell if there's water flowing through the meter. And so if everything is shut off and we still see water flowing through, that means we've got a leak. And we want to make sure that we're paying attention to that. A couple other things that we might see. A malfunctioning autofill valve in the pool. That we may not know that for quite a while, and it can cause the pool to slowly and constantly overflow. And what we find is a lot of times that wasted water, we may not actually notice it. It might be hidden under the decking. It might be hidden under the hardscape. We might not actually notice that we're overfilling the pool on a daily basis, especially if that happens in the morning and we don't notice it until the afternoon. So we want to make sure we're checking those autofill valves, make sure those are running the way that we want to see that. Another thing that we might not notice with these invisible water leaks is leaky appliances, things like water softeners, toilets. We're not going to see that leak because that leak is going to go straight into the sewer. It's not going to flood. We're not going to see a big pool of wasted water. We're just going to find out later when we're wondering why our water bill is so high. And then the kids say, hey, why does my toilet keep making this noise? How long has it been making that noise? Well, in the last 4 months. We want to make sure that we are paying attention. We're going in, making sure the toilets aren't running. But even if the toilet isn't running, there still might be a leak somewhere in there. And so if we are noticing when we go and shut off all the water and go out and look at that water meter, if it's still moving, then these are some of the things that we can check. A leaky pipe. Now, this is going to be a little different than a leaky appliance because a leaky pipe, either it's, if it's in your main water supply, maybe it's in your household plumbing, maybe it's on your drip lines in the backyard or a sprinkler line for your lawn. These can not only waste a ton of water, but they could do a ton of damage because of erosion. We can create sinkholes. We can create voids. We can create pockets. And those pockets, we might damage the foundation. We might create some expansion or retraction underneath the slab that we're going to have to go back and repair. If you want a story of what that looks like on a grand scale, go to episode 63. That's from back in October 2022. It's called Suzanne's Kitchen Remodel. And we actually walk through this with some professionals and talk about an agent on our team, Suzanne, who had an undiagnosed, one of those invisible water leaks that went on for quite a while and ended up causing some damage to the slab. The house was lifting up in some areas and falling in some other areas. And so you could see, go back and listen to that episode, and you can see what kind of damage these undetected underground leaks can do. The Klaus team is different. With the Klaus team, you have someone on your side. Where you live and make memories is important. We have more unique strategies than anyone else to help you accomplish what matters most to you. We can help you with traditional real estate as well as other options such as our lease purchase programs. We can help you buy first then sell, and we can bring you instant offers. We're here to help our neighbors achieve the American dream and help them build wealth through home ownership. For more info or to start your home search, visit us online at klausteam.com. So another thing that we can do is when we're looking at our drip lines, the town of Gilbert says that we could save about 12% of water a year in some cases if we just have a properly programmed smart irrigation controller. So there's a difference. Some people will just go on and they'll turn on their drip lines, and some people will just have a regular timer or things like that. What we want to do is we want to get a smart irrigation controller, especially one that has a rain detection. We don't need to be watering our plants when the monsoons are coming through, right? Or we got a lot of rains. And so that's why a lot of municipalities will have incentives for adding a smart irrigation controller for your drip lines. And the town of Gilbert does have one where they have a rebate program where residents can save up to $250 on a rebate on a qualifying controller. So you just go to town of Gilbert and reach out. And if you live in a different town or city here in Arizona, just reach out and see, does my city or town have a rebate program for smart irrigation controllers? So take advantage of that and save just a ton of money. Just, keep in mind, we don't have to water desert plants as much as we think we do. And, it might be time to have a one-time consultation, have a landscape designer or a landscaper come on out and meet with you. You'll pay them to come out, but it shouldn't be too expensive to have them come out and say, hey, you're overwatering here. This is what, let them set up your drip line timer schedule based on the plants that you have. And we don't need to overwater those. We also want to check our sprinklers. So put the sprinklers on. And this goes for sprinklers and drip lines, because sometimes your drip lines, they may come on in the middle of the night or when you're not in the house. And I can tell you there's a lot of times that your neighbors will notice that you've got this fountain shooting into the street, and they won't even tell you. I don't know. Some neighbors, they just don't like you, or I don't know what it is. But if I saw that at my neighbor's house, I'd stop by and say, hey, I just want you to know you've got a big leak in your irrigation. You're shooting into the street. And I would hope that my neighbors would tell me that too. I've had neighbors tell me that, and I was not completely unaware of it. So you want to go turn on your sprinklers, go turn on your drip lines separately, obviously. And when you turn them on, just look and see what they're doing. Just look and see what they're doing. For those drip lines, if it's shooting water in the wrong place, then there's a hole that you need to plug, or you maybe need to put a cap on the end of the line because the cap has fallen off. In other places, look at the ground in places where you don't have plants and see if it's wet. If so, you might have an underground water leak, or you just might actually used to have a plant there and you're still watering that spot. I think the second one is probably just as common as the first, that plant's no longer there, but we're continuing to water it. And then when if you've got sprinklers, for grass, things like that, check those and make sure that they're not running off into the sidewalks or the streets. And just running down the street and you're watering, the water drain down the end of the street. You don't want to do that. We also want to take that time to look and see if there's overspray. There's some things that we don't want to be spraying with water. Our masonry walls, which in Arizona, I would say the vast majority of homes, the backyard is bordered with a masonry wall. And the problem is if you continue to water those, you're going to start to build up calcium and some of those white marks that we'll see at the bottom of the walls, but you're also deteriorating that wall. It's not designed to have water shot at it. And it might not actually be your side of the wall that's getting the brunt of it. It might be your neighbor is getting a lot of that white calcium stainings and getting a lot of the damage on their side. So we want to make sure that we're not spraying the walls of our yard, but we also want to make sure that we're not spraying our house. We don't want to be spraying our house. We don't want to be spraying our stucco. There will be erosion that takes place on your stucco and cause some damage there. And if it stays wet, that could cause some problems. But we also don't want to be spraying our stem wall, the bottom, our foundation. We don't want to be putting a lot of water there. If you'll notice the way the house is built, it's actually designed to keep water away. The house is going to be built a little bit higher, and you'll see that, by design, you may have changed that when you came and brought your landscaping in, but it slopes away from the house. And you'll notice that there's a lip. As water runs down the house, it actually drips out onto the ground, not onto the foundation. And, everything that we're doing as far as gutters and drains and all that kind of stuff is to keep water away from the house. We don't want to counter that by having our sprinklers shoot right at the house and letting things pool up there and letting things get pelted by water. Yeah, rain is one thing, but we don't want to be doing it with our sprinklers on a regular basis. So those are things that we want to do. We want to check those sprinklers, make sure that water isn't running into the sidewalks, the streets, the walls, the foundation, all that kind of stuff. And we want to make sure that we're not watering things more than we need to do. And on average, Arizonans use 2 to 5 times more water on their yards and pools as is needed. And once again, a reminder, those desert plants don't need a whole lot of water. So with our current water shortage on the Colorado River, we don't know when that's going to happen. We want to make sure that we're conserving what in the desert of Arizona is probably our most precious resource. We want to do what we can to eliminate waste. Sure, we're only using what we need, but we also want to make sure that we're keeping that water bill as low as possible. Now, if you want to make sure you're being efficient, there are a lot of municipalities here in Arizona, especially in the East Valley, that will help you out with a water efficiency checkup. And the town of Gilbert's water conservation specialists have that. I know other cities have that as well. Just reach out, go to your city or town's website and see if they provide any kind of water conservation opportunities for you to make sure that you are doing everything you can to keep your water bill down, conserve as much water as possible, and still make sure that your house is, your yard and your plants are as green as they need to be, that your pool is as full as it needs to be, and that you're just living the wonderful Arizona life that we've grown to appreciate here in Arizona.
Thanks for spending time with us this week at State 48 Homeowner, the ins and outs of owning an Arizona home. You can connect with us for more information, submit topics you'd like us to further discuss. You can see relevant videos, give us feedback, answer your real estate questions, and more at state48homeowner.com.